Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Oh, baby, I said, Georgia, my Georgia, song, song. Comes that sweet, sweet and clear as moonlight, moonlight through the fire. I feel that other arms reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see, said the road is back at you. Georgia, my Georgia, no peace I find. Just an old sweet song, Georgia on my mind. Other arms will reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see, the road looks back at you. Georgia, my Georgia, no peace I find. Just an old sweet song, Georgia, on my mind, on my mind. That's an old sweet song.
Valley Christian Jazz Festival, which starts next month. There's Justin Eccles on keyboard, and Maurice Johnson on guitar, and I'm yours truly, Maurice McCray.
Just get started. Having too much fun.
All right, good morning. First, I'd like to start off by thanking Morris McCraven, Justin Eccles, and Maurice Johnson for playing the music this morning. I always love when they do that. It just sets a great vibe, I think, for the rest of the meeting. We're going to start this morning with the invocation led by Pastor Adam Ellison with First Lutheran Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Rachel Traub, representing Girl Scouts Troop 580. Pastor.
Please bow your heads. Gracious and almighty Father, without whose help and blessing all labor is in vain, remember this leading body in their work. We come before you today to ask that you guide the decisions of these members as they fulfill your mission in service to the people of Oklahoma City. Lord, endow them with wisdom in the commission of their duties, with a spirit of sacrifice for the common welfare, with mercy and justice, with uprightness and kindliness. At the close of this week, we honor the memories of those who have fallen in the name of this peace we enjoy. Help us remember their sacrifice by encouraging that peace to endure through good and forthright decisions which uphold the freedom that has been granted with no small cost. Grant that the true purposes of government may prevail, safeguarding peace and prosperity, so that we may live soberly and uprightly in your sight and have opportunity to tell of you and your kingdom. These petitions we direct to you because in Jesus we know you as our Father and Lord. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll now call the meeting to order. If I can get Anita Arnold and Garland Pruitt with the Charlie Christian International Music Festival to join me down below. All right, thank you so much for joining this morning. I think we'll start off with asking the clerk to read the proclamation.
Whereas the Black Liberated Arts Center, now in the 54th year, was organized to showcase African American culture and has brought to our city and our state the best in fine arts and arts education experiences to help develop the artistic talents and teaching abilities of Oklahomans. And whereas the Black Liberated Arts Center has produced the annual Charlie Christian International Music Festival in Oklahoma City for the education and enrichment of all people for 37 years. And whereas the Black Liberated Arts Center recognizes the contributions of many Oklahoma musicians to the field of music through the Charlie Christian International Music Festival to be held June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2023. And whereas the Black Liberated Arts Center will celebrate Charlie Christian's musical contributions to the world with a jam session, battle of the bands, and outdoor concerts on the big stage under the tent at the beautiful Oklahoma City Community College campus. And whereas music acts at the Charlie Christian International Music Festival will include the all-female jazz quintet Straight Ahead, the band Short Dog, Sue Law Kimbrough Jones, Grady Nichols, Mark Whitman, a Charlie Christian-style guitarist, and many other local, regional, and national bands. And whereas the namesake of the festival, Oklahoma City's Charlie Christian, has been recognized by induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, induction into the Nasui Intergon Jazz Hall of Fame, induction into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, and with a naming in Bricktown. And whereas the Black Liberated Arts Center has brought immeasurable recognition to Oklahoma City through the Charlie Christian International Music Festival and has established the festival as an international attraction for Oklahoma City. Now therefore, I, David Holt, Mayor of the City of Oklahoma City, do hereby proclaim June 1st through 3rd, 2023 to be Charlie Christian International Music Festival Week in Oklahoma City, and encourage all citizens to take this opportunity to experience the musical artistry of the festival and commend the Black Liberated Arts Center for their service to this community.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would. Thank you. And all of you, including the city council members and administration, have received a little card with the invitation with the details of the festival. I'd like to say it's very exciting for us for several reasons this year. First of all, we're starting into a partnership with Oklahoma City Community College, and we will be doing most of our events at that venue. We're very excited to present the Charlie Christian International Music Festival there this year, and we're embracing our international piece of it this year. The little card that you have in your hand, the logo that we bear is designed by an Italian illustrator and artist. And we're very proud that his logo was selected this year. We have received many acknowledgments across the country this year, and even outside of the country. There's a band that's in France, in Paris, very much a Charlie Christian band style. We didn't know them, but they knew us through Charlie Christian, and they contacted us, and they wanted to come and play this year, but it was a little bit too late. So I kind of made a deal with them. I want you all to witness this. My deal is, if you can get to New York, we can do the rest. And so next year, we expect to have the band from France. But this year, we're very proud to have Mark Whitfield, who is a Charlie Christian style guitarist. I'm saying that because there are only a very few in the whole world, maybe 7 or 8. And he is coming from New York. He's our headliner for this year, and he'll be surrounded by local and regional musicians in a weekend of just happiness and joy. And Black Incorporated is very proud to be a part of Oklahoma City's development and growth, and we're happy to lead the way with Charlie Christian's music. And all of the halls of fame that he's inducted into are too numerous to list in this proclamation. The Lincoln Center Hall of Fame, the most renowned, is where where anyone can find the most information about Charlie Christian. He is revered by the world, and this man's been dead over 90 years. So that's saying something. That's making a big statement. And the reason why he's revered is because he was first to do what he did. And so I wanted to give you just a little bit of history so that you could just say, we're proud. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Let's hear it. Thank you so much for being here this morning, and thank you for what you do. I think it's fantastic. So, thanks. Yes, ma'am.
How could I miss this? We have lovely banners, pole banners hanging around the city, and the city of Oklahoma City is hanging on one of those pole banners. I want you to know that too.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 3 on the agenda from the Office of the Mayor. We have an appointment, item A, of Chelsea Banks to serve as a member of the MAPS 4 Citizens Advisory Board. Item B is an appointment of Janice Powers to serve as a member of the Oklahoma City Planning Commission. We can take both of these items with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes. Both items pass. Brings us to item 4, items from council. We have nothing there today. Item 5 is city manager reports.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. We do not have any presentations today. I just note that we have the council priorities update, and this one is the one with the performance measures on developing a transportation system that works for all of our residents. We also have the quarterly investment report, and I just want to express my appreciation to the Treasury Division of the Finance Department and the work that they do. You look at that report, and they're managing a significant amount of funds and making sure they're doing it in a way that protects those funds but generates some return for our residents, and I really appreciate their work. We also have the budget transfers report. Council, there's authorization for us to do certain administrative transfers within our budget. This just gives a summary of those transfers, and we present that and provide that each quarter. So that's all that I have today.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Brings us to item 6, Journal of Council Proceedings. We can take both items with a single vote. If someone would like to make a motion. I have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes. Items pass. Brings us to item 7 on the agenda, request for uncontested continuances. Currently, we have items 11A and 11H. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. We have several that are on today, beginning on page 11. Item 11C, SPUD 1498, will be deferred to the 6th of June. Item 11D, SPUD 1507, will be deferred to the 6th of June. And then item 11E, CE 1074, will be deferred to the 6th of June. Then on page 12, 11J1, unsecured structures, all of these items will be stricken from the agenda. Item E, 640, Hunters Hill Road, the owner is secured. Item L, 233 Northwest 61st Street, the owner is secured. Item M, 624 Northwest 110th Street, the owner has secured. And item N, 4205 Northwest 153rd Street, the owner has secured. Several of these same items will appear on page 12 under 11K1, abandoned buildings. Item C, and these are all stricken from the agenda as well, the owner has secured. Item F, the owner has secured. And then item G, the owner has secured. And that's all the items that I have.
Thank you. All right, brings us to item 8 on the agenda, revocable permits and events. Item A is a revocable permit with the American Heart Association for the OKC Heart Walk, June 2nd to 3rd, 2023 in Bicentennial Park. And Ward 6. Councilwoman Hammond?
Yes, I will. Does anyone sign up to speak?
Yes, Jennifer Lacey.
Yes, let's have them come on up.
Yeah. There's actually a mic up there.
No? Oh, sorry.
Joy's taking control.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
My name is Jennifer Lacey. I am a Senior Development Manager with the American Heart Association here in Oklahoma City, and I'm here to talk about the Heart Walk that's coming up on June 3rd. First of all, thank you all for having us here today. I want to tell you just a little bit about what we're doing on June 3rd. Beginning at 8 a.m., we will have many booths and tents to kind of explore. We will have Walgreens is going to be out doing some blood pressure checks. We are very excited to have MidFirst Bank is doing a CPR kiosk, which right now lives in our Science Museum. And you can actually go up, and it's kind of like a video game, sort of, where you can actually experience what it's like to give hands-only CPR. So we're going to teach people that. The American Heart Association firmly believes that at least one person in every household should know how to administer CPR. So we're hoping to reach about 3,000 to 4,000 people on June 3rd. We'll also have a kids area where we will be doing, we've got some superheroes coming out. We will have a kids circuit challenge where they will get to dribble a soccer ball around some cones, do some jump roping, have a chance to earn a medal. We're also going to be honoring our survivors, those who have experienced a cardiac event and lived to come out the other side of that. Our last 50 yards of the walk itself, as we walk through downtown, will be what we call our survivor lane. And as our survivors walk that red carpet, they'll be handed a cowbell, which probably you're familiar with the Saturday Night Live skit, Need More Cowbell. So we do. We need more cowbell. We want more survivors, and we're going to let those survivors ring out their victories. We'll also be honoring those that have passed with a memorial garden made out of red flowers on the lawn at Bicentennial Park. And people will have a chance to plant a butterfly in honor of one a family or friend that has passed. I actually will be walking this year in honor of my dear friend Keith McGill. He was a local attorney who passed July 1st of last year from a massive heart attack at age 39. So I want to honor all of those that have passed and honor those that walk, that have survived their event as well. Does anyone have any questions for me that I could answer?
Well, thank you for the great reminder for us all to be keeping an eye on our health no matter what our age and our family history. I know I have friends and family that have experienced cardiac events, and it is very scary and something definitely we should all be keeping in mind. I hope it's a great event, and I will move for approval.
Thank you.
All right. We have a motion and a second. And the item passes. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
All right, item B is a revocable permit with the Perry Publishing and Broadcasting Company for Juneteenth Art and Music Festival, June 17th, 2023 at Booker T. Washington Park. Ward 7, Councilwoman Nice.
I see Conan, so I'm just waiting for him.
I was going to say Conan Neal.
Okay. I'll spare your nickname, what we call you.
Good morning. My name is Connie Neal with Perry Broadcasting. This is our, I want to say 17th year doing the Juneteenth at Washington Park in Oklahoma City. One of the largest events in the city. Food, fun, family, great music. I encourage everyone to come out to experience it. One of the functional events, one of the things that I do love is the eating of the greens. So if y'all love collard greens, come on out and try it and get your trophy.
I will say that can get a little messy, but it is fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
So looking forward. I know you all will have a great event, so we'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And the item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to item C, revocable permit with the River Sport Foundation for the 2023 IJSBA Junior Nationals, June 7th to 11th at the Boathouse District. And Tricia Downey is signed up to speak. Hi.
Hi, good morning. My name's Trisha Downey. I'm a new national events coordinator at River Sport. The International Jet Sports Boating Association Junior Nationals is going to take place June 8th through 10th. The first day is a times trial, so each person races one at a time, and then they get to practice. The next 2 days will be team racing through slalom buoys on our river. We have 60 participants, ages 10 through 17. Mostly families come down, and we expect about 100 more spectators. I've seen their webpage. They're filling our hotels, the RV parks. So it's usually we have rowing at River Sport, but this is going to be a really exciting, fast-paced race, and we're really excited to have them. Any questions?
This falls at Ward 7, Councilwoman Nice.
What time will it start? Do you know? Oh, don't worry about it.
Yes,
Oh,
I can
okay.
check. Usually the races start at 8.
Okay.
I know that after the races, they will be holding events, dinners and such in our facilities as well. So they're going to spend some money at our place.
All right, well, I appreciate that. Only reason I ask is for anyone who wants to come out and support our youth to see when they are going to be on the river. But anytime we have our youth on the river, we should support. So if you have it, it's fine. If you don't, it's okay
I do,
too.
actually. Writers' meeting is at 8 a.m. where they all gather and get rules. And at 9 a.m., Moto 1 starts.
Sounds good. All right, looking forward to this event and some young people on the river.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes.
Thanks, we hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Brings us to item 8D, vocal right-of-way use permit with OKC Pride Incorporated to hold the OKC Pride Parade and Festival June 2nd to 4th at Northwest 39th Street between North Penn and North Youngs Avenue, Ward 2. I'm sorry. And Terry Walker has signed up to speak.
Actually, I'm the Pride President, Tessa White, and Terry Walker's here.
Okay.
Just want to say good morning. Glad to be here with my favorite city council. We are, our event is going to be June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It looks like we are back to pre-COVID numbers, and the festival vendor booths are already full. The parade is up to about 70 entries already. We've met with the police department, Captain George, especially over safety concerns, and we're ready to go. It's going to be about the same festival that we've had every single year.
Excellent. Councilman Cooper?
I wish you all the best, and I would move for approval.
Thank you. And I also just want to say a special thank you to Oklahoma City, to the people that live here, and especially the City Council for providing a safe place within the Gate District. You know, you have people like me who virtually have no safe places to go these days, and I just always am thankful for all of you for providing that for us, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. The item passes.
Thank you.
All right, item E is a revocable right-of-way use permit with the Oklahoma Mural Syndicate to hold Juneteenth on the East with Love, June 17th, 2023, Northeast 23rd Street between North Kelham Avenue and Northern Missouri Avenue. And we have David Conkright.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's definitely not David at the mic, though.
All right, so this is our third year doing the Juneteenth on the East Festival. We started at 3 o'clock p.m. on Saturday. We have live murals. I'm also on the Mural Syndicate board. We do a live mural. This year we'll have murals on the Mid-K Beauty Supply. We'll have live music. We'll have an education area and kids area. with the Thunder Reading Bus. The Boys and Girls Club bus will be there for education. Food trucks, a lot of local vendors. I don't know, I'm probably forgetting something, but this is our third year. Oh yeah, Arts for the Kids. But yeah, so it's continued to grow each year, and so it's something that we want to continue to do, and we feel like this is gonna be one of our biggest years. We're bringing in Grammy Award-winning R&B singer Elle Varner, and then also D Smoke. D Smoke was a performer on the Netflix show with Cardi B and Chance the Rapper, and he's on the Bel Air show, and he's also a bilingual performer and a school teacher, so we're excited to have them in Oklahoma to perform as well. And I think that's it as far as the program, and I want to let David say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. We're so excited to really partner with the community to host Juneteenth on the East again. And I know most of us are aware of the history, but wanted to highlight it briefly this morning. In January of 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect. And that was really set out to free the slaves within the Confederate States. Now we know from looking at history that just because that declaration went out, slaves were not freed on that day. But it wasn't until about 2,000 Union soldiers were sent to Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, that allowed over 250,000 slaves to be freed in those southern states. So really this festival, bringing together the community, is really about highlighting American history, really about highlighting liberation and freedom of all people. And so we're so excited to host this again on 23rd Street and have so many community partners and national people coming in for this festival. And I hope that you all will join us. We'll be out there all day throughout the weekend with various activities. But I really hope that as Oklahoma City, we can learn from this history. I see educators across the city council here today. And what we want to do is look back at history and leverage that history so that we can move forward and really creating freedom and justice for all people here at Oklahoma City. Because at the end of the day, people are really looking for three things. They want to be valued as individuals, they want to unite around a shared mission, and they also want to have a voice in decisions that affect them. And I think that's what Juneteenth is all about, and we're so excited to just really share in this celebration in Oklahoma City. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions for us, we're ready to answer them. So,
one question, I know, volunteer opportunities, are those still available?
Yeah, we have a volunteer submission form that's up on all of our social media, so we're still taking volunteers. We have about, I think, 50 or 60 signed up right now. So, and as far as security presence, I work really closely with Captain George from OKCPD to make sure that the area is secure, and then we also hire an extra CLEAT certified team as well. So,
all right. And one of the things I love about telling the story of Juneteenth is the fact that the story doesn't end. You take it one more year to 1866 for the Battle of Honey Springs, which happened in Lawton, Fort Sill area. And that's when we know the story of true emancipation occurred as far as Juneteenth is concerned. So we in Oklahoma have a lot of reasons to celebrate Juneteenth, especially for the fact that we can take that from Texas and say it didn't end there, that most things actually end in Oklahoma. So very, very happy, and I will say this is a great event. I enjoy, this is the best time of the year and favorite time of the year to actually see what's happening on Northeast 23rd Street and the Renaissance and all the great things that we can support. So with that, I will move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
You might as well stay up here.
All right, brings us to item F on the agenda, the revocable right-of-way use permit with Red Coyote Running and Fitness. To hold the Red Coyote Juneteenth on the East 5K Run, June 16th, 2023, North Rhode Island Avenue between Northeast 23rd Street and the southern property line of 1726 Northeast 23rd Street.
Good morning, members of council.
Morning.
My name is John Oz. I'm Director of Operations at Red Coyote, and we are so excited to join JB and the With Love Project again this year to be part of the Juneteenth Festival. We have the great privilege of helping kick off the festivities with a 5K run on Friday evening to get things started that week. It's a free community event that celebrates health and wellness in the community. We had a wonderful turnout last year in our very first year, and are way ahead of those numbers this year. It was a really exciting time. Folks from all over the city coming in to see the wonderful work JB and his team are doing out there in the community with the murals, and to be part of the really exciting event. So we invite you guys to join us, run, walk through the neighborhood in the northeast side, and we appreciate your support.
All right, I think JB sets the bar since he does the marathon every year. So I'll say I have one of the medals in my office. It's not because I did the 5K though, but I tried to crown everybody else. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. But I plan on actually doing it this year, so we shall see what happens. Y'all don't clap yet, don't clap yet, don't clap yet. You gotta wait till you see me out there first. But definitely looking forward to this, and that's the health and wellness aspect of our community and exploring what's happening. That's the best part of why I enjoy this weekend and this event. Did you want to at least introduce all of the folks that we have, the crowd?
Yeah, so this is most of our Juneteenth committee. We got Toya, she does all of our social media, Kaya, Krista, Sky, Marie, Ashley, Natalie, David, Jessetti, and Jesse Warren. So,
all right.
And there's probably like 10 more of us, but yeah, these are the ones who could get up this morning and make it. So,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. These are folks that got up this morning, so we definitely want to recognize them for getting up early. So hopefully you all will come out and join us for this event. It's a lot of fun, and clearly a lot of people came out last year, so I'm happy to hear the numbers have already increased. And we'll move for approval. Go ahead.
I was gonna say last year we had about 800 runners sign up, and we had about 600 run. I think we're over 1,000 signed up right now. So
JB promised it'd be cooler this year too.
Yeah, it was hot last year, that's for sure. So for that many people to show up, that's the only reason I didn't run. So I will move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And the item passes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Brings us to item G, the revocable right-of-way use permit with Red Coyote Running and Fitness to hold the Red Coyote Runtoberfest 5K October 1st, 2023, West Park Place between North Walker Avenue and North Hudson Avenue. Ward 6. John, go ahead.
Yeah, back again. Like I said, Runtoberfest, this will be about the 9th year of this running, and I think our 7th over at Fassler Hall in Midtown. This is a culmination of our spring-summer 5K, Couch to 5K training program. It celebrates the fall season, obviously health and wellness in the neighborhood. A really nice 5K run, starts in Midtown, runs through the neighborhoods up there. So we really enjoy it every year. It's partnered with Brooks Sports and Fassler Hall. Kicks off the holiday season in the fall. So we appreciate you guys' support and invite you guys to come out and be with us.
Great.
Well, that sounds great, and I will move for approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And the item passes.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. We have items A through E we can take with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes. We'll adjourn the OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. Mr. City Manager, we have a presentation.
Yes, we do. We have one presentation here. Angela Pierce is our Assistant Finance Director, and she's going to present this item on this debt. This is one that we will need 6 affirmative votes for the approval of our indebtedness, and then 7 for the to waive competitive bidding because of the way that we manage the sale for revenue bonds. So I'll let Angela present this item.
Good morning, Angela Pierce, Assistant Finance Director. The resolution that you have before you today pertains to the 2023 hotel tax revenue bonds. These are for the Coliseum project out at the fairgrounds. And just to remind you, this funding is going to complement and supplement the funding that was approved in the MAPS 4 program in 2019 by our voters here in Oklahoma City. The resolution states that it's not to exceed $35 million, but I'd like to let you know our expectation is to issue par closer to $32.5 million. We're going to price these bonds the week of June 6th, and we'll be closing at the very end of the month. Our underwriters for this transaction were recently selected, and that's Raymond James. They were pulled from our pre-qualified pool of underwriters that you all approved in January. So thank you for that action. Also today, you will be approving the amendment of the lease agreement with the fairgrounds. And so all that we're doing is extending the duration of that lease to mirror the duration for the maturity on these bonds. And I'd like to just take a moment to thank our financing team, our bond counsel, Jared Davidson, Dennis Whaley with PFM, and our own debt manager, Mike Baskin, and the rest of the team have been really helpful getting us to this point. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. All right, with that, we can go ahead and move items A through D with one motion. You want to do C separately? Oh, of course, requires 7. Yeah. So let's vote on item C separately. All right, this is item C. We have a motion.
It just says waiting up here.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
I'll vote yes. Oh, there it goes.
All right, the item passes with the 7 required votes. Now we can take a motion on the items A, B, and D. We have motion and a second. And those items pass as well. Brings us to, we will now adjourn the OCPPA and we will reconvene the council meeting. Brings us to the consent docket, item 9. 1, 2, 3. We do have one person signed up to speak, but are there any items that council would like to discuss or vote on separately?
Vice Mayor. Item AM is in Mary. And that's all.
All right, no one else? Then Joy Ridden. And Joy, I know you signed up for 3 items.
Yeah.
If you can just go
I
ahead.
was just
and
wanting to
address
know if we
those.
were going to do it all 3 of
Yeah,
them at the same
yeah,
time.
go ahead.
K through whatever it is, the zoning stuff is my normal zoning request because of the finite resources that we're running into. And a lot of these for zoning and everything, we keep building out, and fire, police, EMS, and all the others, especially water, sewer, and all that, can't keep up. We can't keep doing this. AK, which is probably going to have a thing from housing. Why do we keep giving housing more and more and more money? It seems like every meeting we have something coming up with housing and everything. I understand that HUD and all that stuff, but it seems like we keep doing the round robin on housing. It keeps coming back. How many more times are they going to keep coming back with their hands out? And the third one is the AT and AV, which should have been done about 12 years ago. Little story, I was going to OSU OKC. There at the tracks, 20 feet south of the white line there for the tracks, I got hit by a car. I had safety vest and everything else on. I got thrown 30 feet north of the tracks. This should have been done a long, long time ago. Thank y'all for bringing this up, but it should have been done a long time ago. Thank you. And the other one, the other zoning stuff and the next one is the same thing. And I'll be back at the end. Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Cooper, AM.
Yes, just to hear in public a little bit more about this project, and then I just have a follow-up question, please.
Thank you, Councilman. Eric Winger, Public Works Director. So we're on AM? AM, okay. AM is plans and specifications for new bike lanes and a portion of trail and sidewalk on both Grand Boulevard and Independence. This is actually going to help us make a connection from the Burt Cooper Trail that's at Lake Hefner all the way down to Northwest Expressway in Independence. It's a part of a 2017 bond project. Estimated cost is $2.8 million. The preliminary report for this project was approved last summer in June of 2022, so these final plans will be advertised for bids to be received on June 14th. Work is anticipated to begin this summer, 2023, and expected to be finished by the end of the year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it because as I was reviewing the plans this weekend, it's just really interesting to me someone would be able to get off the BRT at 56th and Independence and then make their way to those trails. Like it's going to be a really interesting connectivity thing. I guess my question though is, if we approve this today, I know these are the final plans, is there any way for us to kind of sit down and look, kind of do like a review of what you all are proposing? Until it showed up on the agenda, I hadn't seen the final plans, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'd like to be able to, not like necessarily like super amend them or anything, but I'd like to better understand some of the details of it. For instance, and I've been thinking about this a lot at Villa and Expressway, where I just saw some of the new crosswalk paint go down. I have questions about, for instance, the timing of the pedestrian signal, like how long those are gonna last. I've had people historically express concern to me about how short those signals, how short signals tend to be for the pedestrian. And I just feel like with these two intersections, the one at Independence and the one at Villa, because of all the ADA improvements that are also happening, the sidewalk improvements, I just really want to make sure that we are doing everything we can there to not just have the new improvements go in, but really have this as an opportunity to make sure that people who are crossing those 6 lanes of traffic don't feel unsafe doing so and have a good sense of like, no, I can walk from the hospital across the street safely, or I can bike safely. And I just haven't had time to dig into this work. And so I'd like some time to do that. Is that possible by approving this, or once I approve it, is it just we're off to the races?
No, I would be happy to sit down and meet with you, and we can go over the plans in detail. They have not significantly changed the preliminary report. Really, the plans just detail all the things that are needed for the contractor to receive, price, and construct. There is a combination of trail, there's a combination of sidewalk, and also dedicated bike lane, but there's also some sharrow along the route. It just depends on the widths of the streets and what we're able to accommodate into the existing infrastructure. Regarding the timing of traffic signals, we can review that with you too. We can always receive information from a constituent or a resident if they have concerns about a timing that we can investigate. But timings generally are set, some engineering calculations. It's based on the width of the crossing, the speed of the traffic, and some other factors that actually set those times. So not 2 intersections in Oklahoma City always have the exact same crossing times. There's a lot of factors that go into setting that crossing time to ensure the safety.
So what is the crossing time proposed to be, for instance, at those 2 intersections?
I will actually have to go and research and look that up because it's a calculated number. It's not something that is
But Eric,
standard for
that's
each
also
one.
something that we could approve this, put the project out for bid. That's something that really the actual construction itself wouldn't affect the timing. That's really how we time the traffic signal. We could change that later on too, so we wouldn't have to slow that down, be able to proceed with that, have the conversations about that of how we would time it, but that wouldn't necessarily affect the design or the timing.
The other thing I'd say is that the bids we aren't supposed to receive the bids until June 14th. We have a meeting on June the 6th, and so if you have some amendments or concerns, you could take that up at the June 6th meeting.
So it does not change the plans at all for the timings. We regularly go out and retime signals well after they're constructed just for additional improvements. So no changes to the plans are required.
But if we approve this today to advertise it, we wouldn't be able to change those bids because they would have already been advertised. Is that right?
No, we have the addendum process. So if there's something that we found that might be needing change, or if there's an error identified by a contractor, we can change it by addendum during the bidding process, just not after the bid. But even after the bid, there's opportunities to update construction drawings, and you see those typically at the council level in the form of change orders and amendments to the contract.
Yeah, I appreciate your thinking through the timing, Councilman, because really I have 2 things I'd really like to dig into, and one of them I do worry might change some of the budget. But yeah, one is definitely the timing, because when I go, for instance, to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and I press that timer, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, I don't think there's anywhere in Oklahoma, am I wrong? Is there one place in this city where we give 60 seconds to cross the street?
I don't know the answer to that, but we can look and see. All the timings are different for every intersection, and they're based on standard industry practice, and so I can answer those questions. I just can't do those today at the podium.
It's the standard industry practice too that's based upon the width typically, right?
Width and speed of the vehicles that are traveling, so it changes for each location.
So, and I really, I'm sorry, I need to linger on this, and I appreciate everyone's patience, because I understand those might be the standards, but I'd like to understand how, again, our nation's capital is able to 60 seconds. Again, I go back to when Jeremy was here a few weeks ago, when Councilman Stonecipher, myself, Hinkle, and Councilwoman Hammond all took office. Again, if I'm in a wheelchair, and particularly at a hospital, like literally I've left a hospital. In fact, there we go. Joy, come on up.
I can, if you give me one.
Please, because maybe you might help me.
Independent.
Would you come to the microphone, please? Just so, I want to make sure people can hear you, friend.
They're independents at Baptist Hospital. I didn't sign up for this, but I can contest the timing for the crossing there will let you get across one section of Northwest Expressway before traffic starts going. I've been there 3 or 4 times because my foot doctor's at Baptist, and I've gone across to eat and everything. You can literally get across to the halfway mark, and then you got to start dealing with traffic going on Northwest Expressway. The timing is, and I've called Action Center 3 times on it, and a lot of the other crossings and stuff, the timings are way off. All the crosswalks needs to be re-evaluated. Every one of them that has a crossing button, because it's giving priority to cars, literally giving priority to cars. And a lot of people will pull up there in the crosswalk. I fight it every day, no matter where I am in the city.
And I will say, so my understanding of those industry standards, based on a lot of what I've read, is that they do not often take into consideration, like the sort of standards are written with able-bodied, people that walk much faster than I do, and I feel like I walk pretty fast. And they do give priority to cars in that way, even if it's not saying we just want to get people across here, you got to run or whatever. It is implicitly saying that, and I think if we're talking about being an OKC for all, if we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, sometimes we have to go beyond the industry standard. And I know I'm always forget what it stands for, but it's like NACTO. I think they have some really good information about how a city can change that formula to be more thoughtful about people who move slower, people who are elderly, young people who have tiny little legs, people with dogs, whatever it might be. So I think, and especially if we're thinking about the BRT in general, when we're talking about those intersections and making them more pedestrian friendly, it is great to have the ADA sidewalks. It's great to have, wider sidewalks, but, when you still have to run across Expressway or stop in the middle of it, and cars are gonna go, and even on Classen, there are many times on Classen that I am dashing across that. And again, it just, I think that conversation is very well needs to be had.
Canes, walkers, people in manual wheelchairs is a nightmare right now.
Yep.
That's the reason why I fight so hard for sidewalks. And a lot, like I said, a lot of these crosswalks, even in downtown, right here across from City Hall to the library, can be a nightmare on some days. And
Thanks.
that's right outside y'all's front door.
Thanks, Joy. Appreciate your input on that.
Yeah, so I'd like to do a real deep dive into this. For 4 years, Debbie Martin and Boyd Fulton have asked me what is my priority. And I think I confused the holy heck out of them because I don't have a priority. I have intersecting priorities. But at the heart of all of them is what we just heard discussed between these 3 folk. And it is a wholly new thing for our city to think the way I'm asking us, the way Joy is asking us, the way Councilwoman Hammond is asking us. Because if we're already struggling downtown and now we're gonna try and do this work outside of downtown, inward too, then that's new thinking, especially as Councilwoman Hammond is saying we're looking at the national standards and trying to challenge them. Because this, I'm sorry, just think. When I drove by the crosswalks at Villa, the new ones, they're narrow. And so my guess is that means that the timing to cross is going to be shorter because we're not thinking about, I think the wider, probably the longer. So like the downtown ones, the big wide ones, those are getting longer. So we have now just put in crosswalks that are not going to be long enough for the kids who are trying to get to the library, the kids who are leaving Belle Isle School. When I knocked doors on both sides of Northwest Expressway, it was a priority for Mayfair Heights, for Belle Isle West, and for Belle Isle neighborhood to cross that intersection. And now we have just put in a library, the BRT's coming, these ADA and sidewalk improvements have all come, but I think until we handle this crosswalk thing, Villa, Independence, Blackwelder, all up and down Northwest Expressway, we're just gonna be business as usual. So I don't wanna approve this until I have some like guarantees that this isn't gonna be one of those things where we just say, well, James, we can talk about it, and then nothing changes. This is a significant thing I'm asking for. The second thing on it is where there will be sharrows for the bike lanes, and Councilwoman Hammond and I had to deal with this on Villa with the new project coming up. Sharrows are not very safe for those of us who use bike for commuter purposes, and so I was very pleased with Planning and Public Works working with Councilwoman Hammond and I to look at how on-street paint or other things can work to narrow the road a bit to induce a driver to go more slowly and to make the cyclists feel safer. And that is something I don't know if we've even looked at all for this particular route. So, and that's where I worry more money might come, because maybe paint cost, you know what I mean? And I don't want to get in a position where I approve something today that now our hands are behind our back. So those are my two big concerns, the intersections and the cycling.
Just a couple of final comments just for consideration. So I mean, when I mentioned the preliminary report, we have a very detailed set of bike, trail, and sidewalk paving plans that we've coordinated with the planning department to ensure that we do the best when we're meeting those different modes of transportation, including the pedestrian. That preliminary report that we brought to the council last year was between planning and public works. It was not just a public works document from an engineer, and so we maximize that, and there are just certain locations where dedicated bike lanes can't be provided within the infrastructure. And only then is when we're suggesting the sharrows to make those bicycle connections. We're always going to promote the dedicated bike lane or the trail option first, which are also included in this set of plans wherever that was possible. The only last comment I would like to make is that in downtown, and if you followed our traffic commission and something that has come up from the commissioners, we are actually and have introduced in every single downtown intersection LPI, leading pedestrian interval. And so you will find those just outside here at City Hall as well. And it is to function further improvements to the safety of the pedestrian. So if you're at a crosswalk and you press that button downtown, you're going to notice that you get the crosswalk light while the lights stay red for the vehicles for several seconds to allow the pedestrians to enter safely into that intersection and to be seen by vehicles before the light ever turns green for the through direction. So we are actually implementing things that are in addition to the industry standards now. They're in downtown now and have been for just about a year. But we are looking to exercise those in other intersections too, but it is based on having a higher volume of pedestrian traffic where those really work the best. But we are doing a lot of things that I could go in at length, but I'd like to update you as a part of this. Can do this at any point between now and the bid time. We can even make some changes after the bids, but it will not change the plans just based on the conversation using our standards and the different practices that we've coordinated with planning and other departments.
Okay. On that note, as we move forward, I want to applaud you all, I think, on both items in terms of the LPI, the commissioners who've been doing that. And I do understand that there are some places we can't do the protected bike lanes. I get that, and I think that's just fine. But I think in each of those instances, my challenge now is that I think we have to go further. I don't think that LPI, just a couple seconds, is getting to the heart of what Joy's experience is. A few seconds versus having a full minute to cross 6 lanes of traffic. Whereas what Joy was describing, and we see it all the time, people pull in. We have designed our streets in such a way that most people, I would go that far, most people who drive a vehicle in this city do not stop before a crosswalk. Like that's, okay, we know that. And I think we have to, I appreciate the nodding head on that, Councilman. We have to acknowledge we have designed a city that has, as Joy said, prioritized the vehicle over the pedestrian, and they should not ever be conflicting with one another. This is not an anti-car rant. It is just simply all modes of transportation. I want to get us to at least 30 seconds to cross that, but I think it's gotta be 60. Someone should not, whether they are a child, a senior, and we have a senior housing right up the road from this place, or even an able-bodied person, they should not press that button and then have to think about darting across Northwest Expressway. And the time is now to do this because of the BRT. The BRT is asking us to think differently about Northwest Expressway. That's why I'm lingering on this. That service starts this fall. The time is now. We literally passed it under a program called Better Streets, Safer City. The language is right there. And I am asking us to rise to that challenge of a better street, safer city, 60 seconds to cross Blackwell to Northwest Expressway, 60 seconds to cross Villa in Northwest Expressway, 60 seconds to cross Independence in Northwest Expressway, 60 seconds to cross Portland in Northwest Expressway, and 60 seconds again for Meridian in Northwest Expressway. Otherwise, our nearly $28 million investment in the BRT, we are asking people, choice riders, by the way, a lot of them choice riders, we're asking people who've never rode public transportation, we are asking them to utilize this service. They will not unless they feel safe connecting to it. You will have a situation, mark my words, where people will talk ill of our BRT the way they do currently. Unfortunately, and y'all know I'm a champion of the streetcar, they will do something similar with that. And I just don't, I have to be the champion right now on this, that we pause and we slow down. So if I approve this right now, I need to know that I need some sort of public guarantee that we can have a deeper conversation rather than just patting me on the back and saying, nice try. I really want us to think wholly differently about these intersections, and that might require a little bit of extra funding for instance, narrowing the road. I've spoken with Jeff dozens of times. Planning knows that there are ways with paint, cheap, cost-effective ways that we can narrow these streets for the person who gets off of a bike at Independence, who put their bike on the BRT, got off right there, and wants to get to the Burt Cooper trails or go to work across the street at Chipotle. They need that safe passage on a bike and by foot. I don't want to pass this today knowing that it binds the hands of the funding.
I mean, I can't guarantee any additional funding or what would happen with it. I can guarantee, I could tell you we'll have a conversation about that and then look at those options of what's needed, because I just don't know what the options might be and then what the effects would be. Like, if you're talking about narrowing roads, there's a significant effect on traffic. And so just making sure that we're balancing both, but we can definitely have a conversation.
Eric, I'd be interested in the conversation about timing on lights and how all the intersection stuff works, because 119th and Western at the right time of day with all those high school kids in the cars, it's like an ant farm. And not only are they not paying attention, neither is the traffic. And I'm curious about lots of things about once you push that button, is it the same amount of time that the green lights go in the opposite direction as it is whether you push that button or not? Or does that button make it last longer? Or, just the mechanics of how it works, I'd be real interested in
I'd
that
be happy to
conversation.
provide any updates that the council wishes just on any of the topics on how it's done and how we can make change. And again, I'd like to reiterate, there are signals that do get turned in from time to time that have either malfunctioned or need to be reassessed, and we absolutely reassess and reevaluate those if they're brought to our attention that we're not already aware.
And that's done through the Traffic Commission, or is that
It's
done
actually
through?
just done through my Office of Public Works, and our
Okay.
traffic division does those.
Okay.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Well, then, I think the steps I'd like to take is I'll approve this today in anticipation of this June. what I'd like, I don't actually know that I do want to approve this day, because what I'd like is, especially after hearing Councilman Hinkle, is I'd like time for the council to have the sort of meetings that we're talking about. But I really want to do a deeper dive into what Councilwoman Hammond is talking about. I do not want to sit in a meeting. I would prefer not to sit in a meeting where the words parroted back to me are, these are the standards. I want us to reach out to, again, our nation's capital, and there are other example cities that have 60-second crossings, 90-second crossings. I want to know how they're doing it, and I want to know why we're not. New York City. I want to know why we're not. Like, what is different? There is nothing special about Washington, D.C. No offense to them. There's nothing special. So I want to defer this, please. I'd like to pull this out for a separate. Yeah, please, Vice Mayor.
So we can pull it out for a special vote. Vote by itself.
Go ahead.
My concern is, and I agree with everything you're saying, but the timing issue is handled in the box, right? I mean, there's nothing, as far as like doing timing on existing changes would be done in the box. So it isn't like it's a real expensive thing.
Sure.
I just hate that we would potentially delay ADA improvements, intersection improvements, bike lanes, those types of things if we don't approve it today.
No, that's fair. Here's what I need, please. I would like a meeting wherein we do a deep dive. I would really prefer for planning to work with us on this. I'd love to see Max and Justin there, because I think this is a public works and planning conversation where all of us can bring our minds to that table. I'd like to have that, and then I do think it's worth having maybe some council briefings that address Councilman Hinkle's kind of question, because there are places all across, it's not just Ward 2, but what I'm asking us to do, and I think what Joy is asking us to do, is start thinking, hey, what are the best practices we've learned downtown? What are some other cities doing? And let's start spreading that a bit further. So between now, and I really appreciate the date you mentioned, Councilman, I think between now and when the bid comes back, that's when these things should occur. And by that time, I can tell you, if I'm not satisfied heading into those bids, then I think there's some no's coming, and that's no shade to those bidders. It's just, this is bigger than them. Mark,
and I think you're talking about a big policy decision. And when we start looking at that, that's not something that happens overnight, because we have to have input from our Ward 8 and my Ward 8 individuals, from businesses and from other companies that may be affected by these changes. And so I'd like to see this move forward today, just because it enhances Burt Cooper Trail so much. And so I'd like to see it move forward, but I'd also like to see us have a conversation about what you're talking about and get input from everybody before we make some type of decision.
I mean, it's fine. And let me also just say, was someone else about to say something? But let me also just say this, Councilman, there might come an impasse where maybe some of the folk, and maybe a majority of Ward 8, I doubt it, but maybe, they're like, cars over pedestrians. And if that's the case, then what I would ask is, that's not how the majority of Ward 2 thinks. I am aware there are some people in Ward 2 who just think every time I mention people in wheelchairs, people on bikes, people on foot, they're just like, here he goes again. But it's for a reason. The majority of my people are asking for it. So it might be that what's good over here might be different over here. But we need to figure that out and work accordingly. So, but I say I challenge it because one might not think that 119th and Western has the same concern that a 23rd and Classen does, but it sounds like we do,
Yeah. So I'm opposed to deferring this today, number one. Number two, do you want to vote on this separately, or can we
Let's just go. I'm trusting this process, that we can have some briefings between now and the bid, and but even separate than that, I'd like to do a deep dive with planning, public works, to really look at both the traffic signal stuff and seeing what some on-street paint on a road like Independence. You know what I mean? We're not talking MacArthur. Coming for them later, but but that seems like a place where we can do these sort of experiments and see what happens.
Okay, so just to be clear, you've withdrawn your motion to vote separately on
Yes.
item AM.
Never let it be said that I'm not open to listening. I'm following you.
So we can go ahead and
Let's go for it.
take a motion on the consent docket.
Yep. Thanks for everyone's patience.
A good conversation. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the consent docket has passed. This brings us to item 10, the concurrence docket. We have items A through J. We can take those with one motion. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And the concurrence docket has passed. Brings us to item 11, items requiring separate votes. Item A is deferred. And item B is an ordinance on final hearing, recommended for approval on PUD 1940, rezoning 10101 Southwest 59th Street from R1 Single Family Residential and PUD 1812 Planned Unit Development Districts to PUD 1940 Planned Unit Development District in Ward 3. Councilwoman Peck?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Has anybody signed up to speak?
No.
Okay. There were no protests at Planning. Planning Commission did recommend approval subject to a summary of technical evaluations, so I'll move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. The item passes. Brings us to item C, which was deferred. Item D, which was deferred. Item E, which was deferred. Oh. Joy, you did sign up for 11A through E to talk about stop building out again. Same thing. Okay, thank you.
That's what I said earlier.
Just
Zoning is always the same.
Just wanted to make sure. All right, brings us to item F, ordinance on final hearing relating to the exercise of certain constitutional powers, approving and adopting the First Amendment to the Oklahoma Regional Innovation District Project Plan, amending the boundaries of the project area, identifying and establishing new increment district number 17.
This item was actually presented previously, and so this is the public hearing then and the final hearing and the approval. We are requesting an emergency on this item so that it can move forward. There's a companion item behind that we'll have more information on, but we have presented this one previously.
How many votes do we have to have for the emergency?
We will need 7 for the emergency.
All right, we'll work.
Yes. We'll get her.
Oh, with the presentation? Yeah. We'll come back to item F in a moment. We'll move on to item G, resolution approving the formula for determining the increment of sales tax for increment district number 17, City of Oklahoma City, established, created by the city upon approval of the First Amendment to the Oklahoma Regional Innovation District Project Plan. Mr. Sudol.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Kenton Sudol with the Alliance for Economic Development. I will say this item is also, I believe, dependent, and Kenny may have to answer this, on the previous item being approved. However, I'll go ahead and give you the information on it. As the previous item would be the final approval of the changes of the Innovation District, TIF district, and one of those was creating a small sales tax increment district around the Convergence project. So the item G is actually a resolution that determines what that formula is, which saying it would only be the 2% of the city sales tax for construction, and it would set the time that begins as tomorrow. This was one of the reasons we were asking for the emergency on the previous item, was just trying to not lose another 30 days of sales tax. And just as a reminder, this was something as part of that deal. There was some funds that were loaned from OCDT to the redevelopment authority to help provide part of the incentive on that. And this was part of what we're using to repay some of those funds. In addition, it also authorizes the mayor to make an application for the Leverage Act, which would be, again, if approved, that's something we still have to go through with the state and seek approval. It would allow us to match dollar for dollar any of these funds that are apportioned. So that's really what we're doing with this resolution, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sudol? If not, I think for now we will go ahead and skip items F and G until we have the required votes present. Okay? We'll come back to them as soon as we get a seventh vote. Brings us to item H, which was deferred. Next item is I. I-1 is a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. No one has signed up. Brings us to item 2, the resolution declaring structures are dilapidated. We can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The item's passed. 11J is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. I don't believe anyone signed up to speak on that. So J2 is the resolution declaring the structures as unsecured. We can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. That item passes as well. Item K is a public hearing regarding abandoned buildings. No one has signed up to speak. K2 is a resolution declaring the buildings are abandoned. We can take a motion in a second. We have the motion in a second. Please vote. That item passes as well. Brings us to item 11L.
So this item is just a public hearing and was presented at the last meeting.
Has anyone signed up to speak?
No, they haven't.
All right, with that, we will close the public hearing. Item 2 is the joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust approving an allocation not to exceed $1.5 million from increment district number 4 and 5 of Oklahoma City.
So this item, we also need 7. Oh, here we go. That's great.
All right. We are on item 11L2. And we can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Sorry, I'm late for this. I did have a comment before we finish and go forward. I've already, and this is L, okay. I've already talked to Councilwoman Hammond about my desire to not support this allocation, but I do want to read a letter that I received from community, and unfortunately there's no name attached because they want to remain anonymous for security of people that they know. And this is, I'm going to read it from beginning to end because I think this is very important as we continue to make decisions based on our Oklahoma City Housing Authority and allocating funds. This is a difficult letter to write, but I feel compelled to contact your office concerning the mismanagement of MAPS city funds. You recently awarded funding to the OKC Housing Authority to assist in the housing of disadvantaged OKC residents and the homeless. The executive director hired a consultant to manage this new HUD project.
This was done without competitive bidding or approval of the Board of Commissioners. This individual was on staff at one time, but he did not wish to be consistently in the office but elsewhere. He hired as a staff position an individual to handle the day-to-day operation of conversion of housing authority property to private funded property to lease the Section 8 housing. These projects have been troubled from the onset due to lack of supervision. Funds have been spent without direction. Housing authority property designated for future conversion to the new program have been left to deteriorate. Residents' needs for safe and affordable housing have been ignored. There has not been an independent audit of spending on the funds they have received. The consultant is not of the best moral character, and there is some personal things that that I will not read about this person. And his assistant was recently also involved in some things that I will not read. And I've been informed that this person still remains on the payroll in some form, possibly another consultant. The executive director has no concept of the intricacies of the HUD program he manages. His solution is to hire meaningless upper management positions which provide nice graphs, charts, and speeches to the Board of Commissioners. He does not appreciate the staff necessary to maintain authority property. In fact, he treats them with contempt. Many decent, hardworking individuals who cared and worked hard to maintain authority property throughout the years have left the authority because of his attitude. However, in an effort to be fair to the executive director, he may be subject to inaccuracies presented to him in order to justify their positions, but this has caused problems that exist from the top down in this organization, and mid-level employees cannot affect any change without facing retribution. This letter was prompted in an effort to change the current course of deterioration of a fine program and stop authority property from deteriorating to a point where the residents live in slum conditions. Please have your staff look into the conditions of the authority property and the expenditures of MAP City monies, perhaps an independent audit, and provide assistance to the city's disadvantaged persons. And it closes to say, I'm sorry, but I must remain unknown out of concern of retaliation for my friends who still work at the authority. So that is enough for me to say I will no longer support any funding that goes to the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. And I am expecting for us, because of this now, saying and calling by name MAPS and city funding, that we will be working on an audit of our MAPS and city funding that is to support anything that goes towards the efforts of the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. Thank you. And I'll close with that.
Thank you. We have item L. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. The item passes 6-1. Before we move to item M, let's go back to F and G, please. Item 11F is a ordinance on final hearing, requesting no, this one is not, relating to the exercise of certain constitutional powers, approving and adopting the First Amendment to the Oklahoma Regional Innovation District Project Plan. We can take a motion and a second on item F.
I'm curious why this wasn't voted on earlier. Well, we need
G,
7.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I'm just curious why it doesn't, on some of our other items, it says 7 required votes, why that's not listed here. Just curious as to why that is not listed.
Councilwoman, it doesn't need 7 votes. We were asking for the emergency, and that's the part that needed the 7 votes.
Thank you for that correction. And even with that, that wasn't listed here. As far as emergency, this is just asked of today.
The emergency is listed on the agenda.
Okay, then normally, okay. I'm just going to say normally even that would have said the same. So I'm just concerned that these things were not listed on there. Okay, I apologize because I walked out. So my question now is, as far as the vote, what we are, oh, I just got logged out. What this is concerning as far as G, the allocation for, I understand, convergence, is that correct?
Yes, so Councilwoman, F is the larger changes that were presented several weeks ago on the Innovation District TIF changes as a whole, which does include sales tax increment for convergence. G was the resolution that would set the formula for that and set an effective date of tomorrow if you all adopt this and adopted it with emergency. If it is adopted but not adopted with emergency, it would still go into effect just 30 days later. Kenny, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm treading into your legal territory, but that's the difference between those two items.
Okay.
Yes, 30 days after publication.
Okay.
And I knew I personally had some questions from the last time that we had this conversation as far as the funding and also ensuring that the programming that we're talking through, especially for my education committee, that we're going to get increase in that, as well as the other ways that this TIF is going to have a project area for infrastructure that supports more of the community, more so than we're giving all of these incentives for the development.
Yes, it as part of the budget of this, it increased budget for placemaking, for incentives, and for the education committee. That's the budget, so it still has to actually generate the dollars, and we would continue the same process we've done with working with the education committee to come up with a plan and try to ensure and plan out, as funding is available, how we split that up between those different uses. But that's something we'll be happy to continue having conversations on.
Well, I want to continue to give my reservations and my concerns as far as the Innovation District remains, and that is entirely because I know this was created before I came to obtain office, but as we move forward, a lot of the things that have taken place thus far are very concerning to me as far as how we benefit the neighborhood, how we benefit the residents, and how the community is also going to thrive just as much as we say we want this development and the developing of Innovation District to do. And I'm very careful because of the systemic things and historic things that have already taken place in this specified part of our community as well. So that's where I have difficulty as far as wanting to support, but having higher reservations of support than I do the support. I know that makes no sense, but it makes sense to me. Of how we work on ensuring to this community that as a city entity and body, we are working with them and not against them to get what we want.
I'm told you before, I'm very committed to continuing having conversations with you and the members of that committee, and trying to work together to come up with a plan that benefits the students and teachers in that area as was designed in this TIF plan. So still committed to doing that.
Okay, my last one is, if we go through, as we continue through this process and we need to come back to the drawing board as far as this TIF is concerned, I want to ensure that we do that. depending on what it is, because I understand we're in the beginning stages of this piece of it, but I know as we move along and go through this process, there are probably going to be some priorities that move and shift as far as how we continue to care for the community. So I want to be ensured, even beyond me, that when we have these continued conversations, that we're able to come back to the drawing board, able to have a way for us to do that, and for us to ensure that those concerns are addressed and those changes, if necessary, are made.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my screen won't come up, so I will say yes, but again, I say yes with reservation.
My screen is
All
the
right.
same, and I'll say yes, but also to echo the councilwoman, yes with these reservations. And I would like, I don't know if, I'm guessing there were going to be updates to us about this sort of work, especially the school and the kids. Will council be receiving these sort of updates on where we are?
Yeah, we can absolutely accommodate that. We just began the program, finished the first year of it. We just are starting the second year of funding on that, but we'd be happy to bring back some updates on that.
Okay.
Great. All right, item F has passed with the 7 votes. Now let's,
Do we need to do emergency separately?
yeah, I'm sorry. Now we need to include the emergency, so I'll take a motion. I have a motion, a second, please vote.
I'm just curious, what is the emergency for? Why?
That again this was so that it would be in effect immediately, and part of that was the sales tax TIF around convergence, and that was that's what the next item G is really related to, and that's part of trying to make sure we don't just lose another month's worth of sales tax on
What you're
that.
saying is we'll get an extra 30 days of sales tax.
Yeah, and you want to explain that it's just sales tax on construction?
Yeah, it's only on the construction, so that construction's already started, so, we've lost some opportunity already. What we're trying to do was capture from, if this was approved immediately, be able to capture that sales tax immediately, because we're going to make an application for the State Leverage Act, which matches dollar for dollar. If approved, so you have to go through the process and get approved. If it doesn't pass with emergency, because it already passed, it would just go into effect 30 days from publication, so we would lose that time period of sales tax.
And the item passes with 7 votes. Now brings us to item G, once more. Resolution approving the formula for determining the increment of sales tax for increment district number 17. We can go ahead and take a motion on this item. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
And I did vote, but I just want to express my concerns again, and I'll be done talking about Innovation District for a while. But I just want to, again, express my reservations of how we throw the baby in the bathwater to certain projects and things, whereas our community still needs assistance and that same development and the increment and the project area infrastructure that these places and these TIFs can also provide. So I expect the same type of baby in bathwater, if you will, thrown at the community just as much as we do for these types of projects.
So now item passes, we need to vote on the emergency.
We
Correct?
don't need the emergency on the resolution.
We don't need the emergency on the resolution.
Sorry. It'll go into effect immediately.
All right. Yeah. All right, that moves us to item 11M, resolution approving the incurrence of indebtedness by the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority by the issuance of its hotel tax revenue bonds, taxable series 2023, in one or more series relating to the construction of the MAPS 4 Fairgrounds project at the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds. 6 affirmative votes required to incur indebtedness, 7 required to waive the competitive bidding. We can take a motion on item M. I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. The item passes with 7 votes. Item N1 is a resolution authorizing and directing the municipal councilor to enter into an agreed settlement and journal entry of judgment in the Cleveland County District Court case styled the City of Oklahoma City versus John A. Pugsley and Pamela J. Pugsley as husband and wife, Cleveland County District Court case. And there hasn't been a request for...
That's correct.
Okay. That's correct. So we can go ahead and take a motion on item N1. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The item passes. Brings us to item 11O. At the request of the municipal councilor, it's to go into executive session. We can take a motion to enter into executive session. I have a motion and a second. And with 7 votes, we'll move item O into executive session, which we will do towards the end of the docket. Brings us to item 11P, claims recommended for approval. We can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the item passes. Brings us to item 12, comments from council. I think we'll start with Ward 8, Councilman Stonecipher.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A couple of things. Sunday I came downtown. I was going to get prepared for city council, and everything was blocked off to my building, which is Bank First Tower. But I was able to sneak around and get in the back and go into the parking garage at Santa Fe. And I parked, which is where I park Monday through Friday. And walked up the stairs, looked out. There are these big Bank First letters on the top of the Santa Fe parking garage. And here's a helicopter hooking up to take up IRST. It was quite a sight, and I took some great pictures. But the point of it is, I want to thank Bank First for they're just about to complete the tower. And it's taken 3.5 years. This has moved roughly 425 employees, all in one location downtown. But there's an interesting side note to this, and that is, the property was in bankruptcy for several years, and the Rainbolts came in and purchased the building. But 2 things almost occurred to where they were not able to remodel this building. Number one is they had the foresight to buy all the thousands and thousands of windows that they replaced before building materials skyrocketed and before there was a shortage of labor to install. So that was really smart. And then the second thing is, if we would not have sold them, not for cost, for its fair market value, the Santa Fe parking garage, they would not have purchased the building because they wouldn't have anywhere for those 425 employees to park. So it's a great moment for our city. It's a great building. Some have said that I probably in my lifetime will not see another high-rise like that built in downtown Oklahoma City because of this renovation, but I'd rather have it done now than 20 years from now. So my hat's off to Bank First. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nice.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a couple things. I do want to say, again, congratulations to all of our graduates, the class of 2023. And I know last evening saw some posts for Douglas High School for their graduates, and I know they will do great things among our city and our state and all across the globe for whatever they pursue. And also, I wanted to congratulate our youth council members, Kiera and Jalen, who represented Ward 7, but also we had a couple of other at-large members that were with the mayor that I realized are also a part of Ward 7. So I just had the majority of youth council members, and it was exciting to just listen to the young people and their experience about learning about local government. And one of the things that the mayor said, which I think we all agree with here, is the fact that these young people now are equipped with more knowledge about local government than most people they will probably come in contact with, young or old. So they already have a leg up on how they can impact Oklahoma City and do some more great things. So again, wanted to say congratulations. The two I had were juniors, so they still have another year of school left to be great and do some more great things. So just excited for their journey. And I came to that luncheon a little late because I was invited to the Oklahoma Jail and Prison Ministry luncheon, which was at the Bank First building. That was pre-signage, because even for myself, I was like, where's the sign? I know the building, but the sign wasn't there yet. But I knew what building it was. But the renovations are beautiful for me going in and seeing, and just friendly as far as when I walked in the door. But I mentioned this Oklahoma Jail and Prison Ministries because they do advocacy, and they are implemented in our county detention, our county jails across the state. And their work is important, and we want to highlight that to ensure that we have opportunities for folks who are being detained in our county detention center to have an outlet, whatever that may be, as far as these prison ministries are concerned. I also want to thank our Development Services Code Enforcement Division. We had a code talk, and that was with our residents from Spencer, Green Pastures, and New Chance City, so that part of Ward 7, and that happened on Thursday at St. Luke's Baptist Church. And I bring that up because this is the first week of this type of code talk that they've been able to have within our city. And they went door to door to invite our residents within this part of our community in our city. And when I tell you it was a packed church, it was almost standing room only for folks to come out and just understand the process of code enforcement and to answer questions. So very grateful to be a part of that conversation and just listen and hear what some of our concerns are as far as our residents that live in our more rural parts of our city that experience a lot of different things when it comes to code enforcement than our urban core. So just want us to be mindful of that as well. Sunday, able to spend time with Victory Outreach Church. They have planted here in Oklahoma City from, I think they were birthed out of California. So that just tells you the work in the many people who are migrating for different reasons to Oklahoma City. But Pastor Martin, his wife and family, and that church family, they have now planted their church on Northwest Expressway right after you get to the nice new bridge area. And very excited for the work that they're going to do to impact our community in that area. One of the things I'm remiss that I did not say our last meeting when we went through a few hours of listening to the zoning case that came before us was I did not thank our city staff for them just being so diligent in having to take all of those calls and forwarding all of those emails because they were the ones who actually did the work and had to field all of those calls. And I understand some of them weren't friendly calls. So to Ms. Beverly, to James, to Boyd, and Ms. Debbie, thank you so much for your work and continued work to support us as council members, but specifically for me in that PUD that we had to go through for the past couple months. And also, just want to say, Juneteenth on the East, 5K, I'm looking for y'all. I'll have my shorts. I just got me some Hokas, so I'm ready. Some running shoes. I'm ready to go. So please join us.
Yeah, I would just, two things. First, I want to highlight an event that some of our city staff are taking part in next Tuesday, May 30th, in the evening, 5:30 to 7 at Dunlap Cotting on Sheridan. Oklahoma City Beautiful has partnered up with some folks from our parks and planning departments to host an event called Building Sustainable Cities, City Planning 101. So for anyone who's curious about, that behind the scenes planning process when, when a project gets proposed and you see all the fancy renderings and stuff, the presentations, kind of what goes on before that, particularly as it relates to sustainability. And so we have Tio Bowman from the planning department, Rachel Ware from our parks department, and then Max Harris also from the planning department to lead that. And so just really for anyone out there who is interested in kind of what does that look like, how can they be involved in, especially as it relates to sustainability. So thank you so much to OKC Beautiful for putting that together. I hope folks can go join. And then last week, I had the pleasure of attending an event hosted by a group called Shred the Stigma. And I just wanted to talk about it for a second because especially as we've seen sort of what appears from where I sit, a more aggressive criminalization of people who use drugs, events related to overdoses in the community. I think it's really important that when we think about drug use, the criminalization of drug use, that we remember that it's not, it really should not be a criminal issue, it's a public health issue. And so Shred the Stigma hosted an event last week, just kind of bringing a bunch of different partners together in the community to celebrate some of the work they've been able to do this year. They are a organization pretty much all volunteer led. I don't think they have a paid staff person. It's just a labor of love from a lot of folks, different places in the community that provides free and anonymous harm reduction supplies. So for anyone not familiar with the term harm reduction, it's the philosophy and the mindset and the practice of meeting people who use drugs, whether those drugs are criminalized or not. Probably everyone in this room is a person who used some kind of drug, whether they're using it chaotically or in a prescriptive way or through our coffee. Every drug, every chemical we put in our body has some kind of interaction with both our physical and social worlds, and there's often harm associated with that. And the idea of harm reduction is to mitigate the harm, again, no matter what type of drug you use. So a lot of what they do is providing Narcan to people. Narcan is a harm reduction tactic to help bring people back if they are in the midst of an overdose. They provide fentanyl test strips so people can test drugs before they use them, particularly if they don't know where that drug is coming from, who made it, what might be in it. They also provide things like emergency contraception and a whole host of other harm reduction supplies for people anonymously in the community. They also not host, I would say, but they provide a service of syringe cleanups. So, I know I've heard this issue, I've seen it sometimes, walking through a park or a parking lot somewhere, a lot of potentially needles, glass, and they have the tools and the safety equipment to go, wherever that might be. You can just go to their website at shredthestigma.org, shredthestigmaok.org, and submit where it is, cross streets, description of where, whatever it might be, and they can go and safely clean those up and get them disposed of through, the proper channels of getting rid of sharps. So, the goal is really to meet people where they are. And one of the great things I think about this event that got hosted last week is there were treatment providers, there were community volunteers that work with the program, but they had two people that spoke that in this past year have gotten connected to community resources. One of them was able to go to treatment, but because they were connecting with people through Shed the Stigma, they said, somebody showed up to where I was staying, they didn't judge me, they helped me with supplies, they kept me alive, and they sat down and talked with me about what it is I was going through. And after a few months of talking with them, after some events in my own life, I asked them, how do I get connected to longer term supports? And one of them shared their, I think it was 6 or 7 months of sobriety, had gotten into treatment. So that's just taking away that arbitrary line of waiting for people to quote unquote be ready for treatment. Because even if you get to that ready point, it is a long road, especially if you don't have those connections, especially if you're isolated from the community to find your way. Even if you have connections, sometimes it is incredibly difficult to navigate your way into treatments, sustainable, ongoing support. So meeting people where they're at, reducing the harm associated, the risk associated with their drug use is a lot of what Shed the Stigma does, and they are saving people. They have reported over 500 overdose reversals, and they said they only have had about 13. They hand out a form that people can call or email them and say, I use this Narcan, and they've only had about like 10 or 13% of people reached back out to them after passing those kits out. So there's probably a lot more that they just can't fully measure, but at least 540 people are still alive, still have the opportunity to be, husband, son, spouse, cousin, friend, and the opportunity to seek that treatment if and when they're ready. And I really hope that as a city, as a community, that we can lift up these approaches, because they are what actually works. Putting people in jail, prison, it does not get people to safety, get people to wellness. And the more that we use that approach, the more we're just doing the same old things that that have not been working. We've been doing the war on drugs for longer than I've been alive, and it's not better. And it's well beyond time that we really, I think, as a community, embrace a public health approach to public health problems instead of a criminalization approach that just exacerbates the other harms associated with those behaviors. So I just wanted to lift them up. Again, I think that needle cleanup service is so valuable because, again, they can do it safely and appropriately and make sure that those things are away from potential harm to the community, but also get them again, those connections to people in the community that want to see something different. So thank you.
Councilman Hinkle.
I'm going to tag on, excuse me, to Councilman Stonecipher's comments about the Bank First Tower. I have intimate knowledge of the last 3.5 years of what's gone on there, and as I was on the roof of the Santa Fe garage at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning watching the helicopter set the letters, it struck me that the owner, the management company, the construction company, the architect, and the sign company are all MIO, made in Oklahoma, and that made me proud. So that's it.
Councilwoman Peck. Councilman Cooper.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. First, and I have a few things. First, I'd like to congratulate and thank the students from U.S. Grant High School. Congratulations on their graduation. I have former middle school college prep students from Jefferson Middle School who graduated this year and had actually reached out and asked me to deliver the keynote. And while I feel pretty good about keynote speeches, I've teach English, so I've done some homework on how to do it, read my Aristotle. Nerves never knew a word. I mean, I got up in front of those kids, I don't know, B- speech. It wasn't was not my favorite, but it was just because it was so meaningful. I mean, my God, these are kids I knew as 7th graders and 8th graders. Their families were there, came up, do you remember me? And I'm like, of course I remember you, parent-teacher conferences, I'm just so proud of them. And one of those students, Dayanara, she spoke right before me as their valedictorian. And in her remarks, she said, I never thought I would be in this role. And when I had the chance to speak, my first words were, I knew when I met that girl as a 7th grader, like this is where it's heading. Be ready, city manager, and Brent Bryant and Laura Johnson, because Dayanara is going to school for finance. And I may have made a promise to her that I might introduce her to some finance folk who seem to know what they're talking about. And so, yeah, I'd appreciate that should that day come. But also students with names like Jesus and Gladys, they were on student council there now. That's a wild thing to see. Students with names like Sierra and Jaden, and anyone else who was there that night, I just really appreciate that invite. I'll say though, I was a little dismayed that during my remarks to the generals, I asked them to raise their hand how many of them know what a city councilor does. And I believe one shot their hand up. And I didn't judge, because then I asked them how many of them know Bricktown and have been to Bricktown. And oh boy, the hands just go up in the air. And I was like, well, then you know city council because your canal, your trails, your Scissortail Park, and you could see the light bulbs going off. And then I just made it as simple as how many of you've purchased something in the last few days? Well, then that's your firefighter's salary. And I just think that is wild that just like me 23 years ago, no one taught me what city council is, how it works, but I would argue the most effective level of government in Oklahoma, and meaningful. It makes everyday things possible, like the revitalization of Liberty. And I just keep beating this drum. I really worry, and I think there's a role for city council to play beyond youth council. It is not okay in my mind that an entire class of not dumb people would graduate high school at an institution like Grant and not know what city council is, not know what it does. That's wild. I just think that is an indictment on us as adults. But all it took was in 7th grade and 8th grade for me saying to these kids what we do, and then giving them pointers on bringing binders so they're organized, helping them with their note-taking skills, helping them with their reading and writing skills, and they went on to be presidents of their student council, valedictorians, and then everything in between. I mean, you just have to believe in these kids and tell them the truth of how it works. But apparently we're not doing that enough. But I saw that bright light in Dayanara and Jesus and Gladys and Sierra and Jaden. So I just wanted to mention that. Secondly, but relatedly, there was an article that was pretty heavy on my mind because of my former middle school teaching work. But there was a Guardian article, and just some patience here, I'm going to read a few paragraphs from it. This is a quote from Erica Palmer, who's a staff attorney at Advocates for Children, which is a New York City nonprofit that helps students in foster care. And I had many students who were in foster care when I taught at Jefferson. And she had this to say, quote, if you look at PTSD symptoms and diagnoses, you'll see a rate in children in foster care that's similar to combat veterans. People ask me all the time, if the subject of homelessness comes up, the one group almost everyone can agree when it comes to homelessness that they have a concern. Like, well, how many veterans are on the street? How many veterans? It's horrible that our veterans should be homeless. I agree. At the same time, though, we have kids who have gone through the foster care system, and their experiences, you just heard, are similar to what a combat veteran experiences. That's not my opinion. And that really worries me because of the next thing. It impacts them internally. You might see a child with their head down on a desk or with their hoodie tied up over their face. They're physically present, but they're not learning. And then they're left to fall through the cracks. And that's the end of the quote. And then this is The Guardian. People in the system are in dire need of mental health care. And here's the rest of it. If we could, and here are the solutions. This is not, and I really want us to think about the mental health component of MAPS 4, our youth centers, but then also think of the lack of kids who rose their hand who even know what City Council does. So if they don't know what City Council does, that means they don't know about MAPS. That means they don't know about these projects that are coming. So how are we going to connect the kids who are in need to these projects? That's the dot I want to connect right now. There are kids in our community and their families who do not know about our work. But right here it says that if we could provide really meaningful long-term support, supportive, non-judgmental, culturally relevant, and appropriate mental health services to these children, to our youth, the family members who are involved in child welfare system, it would be, quote, totally game-changing. But that can be nearly impossible to get. Anytime we're trying to refer people for mental health treatment, they're often waitlisted, and it takes months and months and months. You might be wondering, why did I mention this particular article? Well, just a couple paragraphs before, this segment is called, of the article, Just a Metro Card to Survive. One constant in Jordan Neely's life was dancing. He began imitating Michael Jackson's moves as early as age 4. As a 20-year-old, Neely had hoped to land a job in the nightlife circuit. Neely had little stability in the rest of his life. After his mother was murdered, he moved in with his grandparents, but he acted out and cut school. He would not listen to me or his grandfather, his grandmother told authorities in 2009. And then in 2010, Neely threatened to kill his grandfather. And then he ended up sleeping in the building's hallways. And then in the following years, Neely became one of New York City's roughly 11,000 other children, and more than half of those children are Black or Latino, who were part of New York City's foster care system. And many of those children come in already with that significant trauma of, again, their stepfather murdering their stepfather, murdering their mother as a teenager. The same age Dayanara and Gladys and Jesus and Sierra and Jaden were when I was teaching them. And I had students like that who were in foster care. I can see one of them as clear as day right now. I won't say their name. So they come into that system with trauma, and then when they're in the system, they encounter further abuse or unsafe condition in many foster homes. And a significant number of children in the foster care system end up dropping out of school, as Neely reportedly did. So I really worry, and I know I keep beating this drum, but I really worry, having participated in the point in time count, that too many of the folk who are experiencing homelessness in our city are people who went through this foster care system. They've slipped through these cracks. We have not prioritized that support for them when they leave the foster care system. And while I love that Dayanara is the valedictorian, there are a lot of other students who are now about to leave Grant and many of our other high schools who don't even know what City Council is, do not know what MAPS is, do not know what Mental Health Association is, do not even know these battles that we're having about, is the Oklahoma Fair Housing Authority the right operator? I really worry about this. And till now, I still have not heard from this body what our plan is to make sure we're connecting these kids and their families to the work that's coming. So that's my challenge. I'd like to know what that would be. And now that Chelsea Banks is going to be representing MAPS 4 in Ward 2 and will take that seat this summer, I'd like for this summer to kind of hear more from Director Todd in the city manager's office about, and from the school districts. I mean, kind of in the way that MAPS for Kids brought the school districts together. I just would like to know what coordination efforts we're planning to do, because I don't want a situation where someone I taught who used to keep their head down on their desk finds themselves dead on our streets because someone felt threatened by them, as Jordan Neely did. That is my sincere worry, just as much as I'm worried about someone like Joy crossing the street. So that's my challenge there, and I believe those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 13 on the agenda, citizens to be heard. Up first, we have Ann Sandiger? Sandiger, thank you, with Hope is Alive.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
So I am here regarding the opioid abatement grant money, and I was informed that it was awarded to the state and then distributed to the political subdivisions. And upon further investigation, I learned that it was going to be used for City of Oklahoma City employees. And I just have concerns about it. I am a recovering heroin addict myself. I am in recovery for 2.5 years, and I have experience, and I know what goes on in the community. I've seen the devastating effects. I've seen the tolls that it's taking on families. And I want to propose that we think about using this money to support nonprofits who are dedicated to eliminating the effects that substance abuse is having on our community. That's my proposal.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Up next is Joy Reardon, again.
What I'm going to say is quite a few people's going to get mad at me, especially on this horseshoe. Why are y'all kowtowing to OSHA? Quit letting them pull your heartstrings for people that actually live there. Quit voting to give them more money and everything. And if you can find out who wrote that letter, tell them thank you. But every vote that comes up for housing, several people on the horseshoe, I won't name names, vote against it. But it seems like everybody here lets the housing pull on their heartstrings. Quit doing that. Because they're not using the money as they're supposed to. Every time I turn around, I live there. I live in housing. It's not getting any better, and it won't. You think by throwing money at a problem, it's going to solve it. It will not. I apologize if my voice is going up, but I have no control over it. But we need, like the letter says, an independent audit of the money. When is that going to happen? When is the independent audits of housing going to happen? Because y'all keep throwing money at them. Is it going to get these projects started, or get these projects going, or get these projects finished? 60 years, or 1972, I think, is when they come into whatever. For that long, there's been problems with housing, and nothing has been done. Please, let's look at the history. Let's look at the projects. And thank you for speaking up for the ADA. I come every meeting, or I try to come every meeting to fight for ADA, not just for me.
30 seconds, please.
Yes, ma'am. But for all ADA, white canes, walkers, wheelchairs, manual wheelchairs, and stuff like that. Please, let's put ADA up here and not down here. Thank you. I'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
All right, up next is Mr. Ronnie Kirk.
My name is Ronnie Kirk. Years ago, when I was 6 or 7 years old, I was standing trying to listen to my grandfather while they playing dominoes. He said, "Ronnie, you want to smoke?" I said, "Mm-hmm." He let me puff from that cigar until I got sick in the stomach. Since then, I never smoked anything. My brothers and sisters, they don't smoke today. And I was supposed to be, Boo, Brian, Rodney. They all work. My son got his own lawn service. His brother has his own lawn service. One of my grandsons, he's the head chef for the Thunders. My granddaughters, I got 3 granddaughters and a grandson. They watched some of the city council meetings. Their father, their mother, they all sat down and watched. So I told them, Michaela, she was here with me. I said, we're going to teach y'all how to be council people, how to represent the Northeast community. All them meetings I have on the back of the cards I gave y'all. I said, this is y'all's training tool. So Miss Neese, relax, take your time. We got the North Ward 7
30 seconds,
community
please.
covered. President Nixon, he would roll over in his grave if he knew the war on drugs still continue. After the government, they started the war on drugs, went on, still going on. The marijuana, the states know they made so much money.
Mr. Kirk, your time's up. If you could
Okay,
kind of
now
wrap
they
it
make
up
the
here.
money. If they're gonna let them, that colored candied marijuana, they got the M&Ms. The kids think those. They don't know the difference. If you're gonna continue letting them bring the marijuana into the state, at least make them with the black widow spider, so the kids know that they're not the regular stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk.
Thank you.
Up next is Michael Washington. I did.
3121 with a big W51 on it. Y'all already know when Michael Washington steps up to the mic. I'm told, ask him to drop the mic when he's finished speaking, because I know I'm effective. Now then, let me say to the de facto board of the Freedom Center, old news but relevant news and yet good news that Michael Washington wants all of you to know about. I am the one who had the Freedom Center removed from this fictitious mouthful project. You want to know why? Because ain't no doggone way I'm going to allow for the city to say we are responsible and going to take control of a monument that the late, great educator Clara Luper intended to remain on the east side, and the black folks, watch it now, continue to remain in control of. You want to know why Michael Washington single-handedly saved the Freedom Center? Because I knew it was an important, significant history to Oklahoma. Not just African-American history, but the history abounding all over the world. Watch this one, that I don't hear much of the other committee talking about. Yeah, they talk about the 1958 sit-in movement, but do anybody tell you, like only Michael would tell you, that it was the only longest sit-in movement throughout the United States? Why? Because Greensboro, North Carolina, or South Carolina, they came almost 2 years later afterwards, and guess what? Maybe a year, but the Freedom Center movement, sit-in movement, lasted 6 flat years, from 1958 to 1964. Think about it. Now then, so that was the first sit-in movement. Why is this history hidden? Because the billions of dollars and the redirecting of money challenging going in one direction, now they got to come back to Oklahoma because of Michael Washington. Isn't that something wonderful? We got to do tourist attractions in Oklahoma now. Oh, we didn't know about the longest sit-in movement beginning in Oklahoma till a lady's been arrested numerous times, too many to be counted. But I just want to say to all of y'all,
30 seconds, please.
Thank you, ma'am. My name is going to be recognized for saving the Freedom Center single-handedly by myself. Oh, there will be lawsuits filed against these so-called de facto. I'm not going to name any name because I've halfway given them a challenge of respecting me. But should that fail, names will be mentioned again. See how respectful and honorable Michael Washington be if he's given a chance? 5 seconds. I stay ready to keep him getting ready. And as Arnold Schwarzenegger has one of my beautiful topics, hasta la vista, baby. I will be back. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, next up is Guy Peters.
Good morning, Horseshoe. Thank you for letting me speak in front of you. I'd like to speak concerning what, James, you said earlier, about 15 minutes ago, concerning engagement between the kids and stuff like that, but I would like to also talk about the engagement on Southside Ward 6. I'd like to see more education, everything towards our people that are kind of don't know how to speak to our council and everything like that. So that's kind of important, and I kind of wanted to bring that up because that kind of sparks some interest in that. I kind of feel out of place talking about other wards since Ward 6 is my ward and everything, but I kind of wanted to say about Ward 2, about bringing up a kind of like a bond proposal concerning a bridge that would connect that 6th lane that you were talking about and everything. So, you know, that's something that we could talk about in future bond proposals and everything, but kind of slowing down traffic on a street that wide and everything kind of is I don't know how to feel about that. I'd like to talk about that, but I'm listening to that and stuff. Community development in Ward 7. I talked to people in Ward 7 concerning community development and everything, and what I asked myself about, Kelly, about the development Kelly, instead of East 23rd and Martin Luther King and stuff. I was kind of wondering and asking myself about that. But as far as Ward 6 and everything, Councilwoman Hammond, we have done some great things concerning the safer streets around Rockwood, and that's my neighborhood. And I appreciate you, and I'm filled with gratitude about the work that you've done on that area and everything. But last week, last council, you talked about the just south of Dell campus and everything. So I'm kind of thinking about that area right there as far as that being prime for development. And I'm not saying a lot of development or something like that, you know, but, you know, there's a lot of industrial around there and everything. So, you know, I'm willing to hear and talk concerning about that.
30 seconds, please.
Also, the development of, or the repavement around Woodson Park and stuff. That's going to be important. And I know we've talked about it before, but I just wanted to be on kind of like record that I am here to talk about that and stuff. Also, community relations between Oklahoma City Police Department and our elected officials in Ward 6. That's very important to me. So Southside Ward 6 is something that I would like to grow and better between our people that live there, especially in the Rockwood neighborhood. That would give us the opportunity to feel comfortable to talk about that. Of course, I'm comfortable about coming to the Horseshoe, but there's a lot of other people that would like to engage and like clean up their neighborhoods and everything, and I'm here to have that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes item 13. Now we can recess to executive session to talk about item 11O. right, we're back from executive session, which brings us to item 14. We are adjourned.